Hi, this is Joyce Young. Welcome to Powerhouse. Today we have with us Susanna Soo. She is the founder and designer of S.Nine. So let's get started. Hi, Susanna. Thanks for being here. So this year is your 10th year of S.Nine brand.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Incredible. Like, kind of just went by so quickly, and then to me, it's so important that I'm still able to kind of maintain the drive. And obviously there are like days that ups and downs and all that, but like to kind of like remain like persistent and finding joy in what I do, and finding people who love my work, and surrounding myself with that kind of positive energy that has kept me going, like for the past 10 years. And then I've been getting better and better to kind of keep the balance. I think that's how.
And how did you get started? So thinking back like 10 years, how did you start your label?
It kind of happened really naturally. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon path, and then I went to New York. I got the job for like web design for Sesame Workshop. I did 2.5 years of work there, and it was really wonderful time. Like I really loved the team there. I enjoyed the lifestyle, in the city. Like after work, you go out and try different bar restaurants in New York. Like it's just so vibrant. Feel in me that I really want to like learn more, be more, do more. And then eventually I started taking classes in the garment district and to do sewing, sewing classes. And so like after work every day I would go there, and then it's kind of like a like a fun thing for me to do. And then eventually it developed to be like an obsession. Like I really kind of enjoyed the construction, pattern, sewing, everything. Like I started researching. I started actually like writing my own blog about it, because I really want to study and research it.
Right. Wow.
It's kind of like my journal. Like I just started it as a journal. Like, so I don't really care who reads it, but like I was like,
you want to document the process.
Exactly. So eventually, like the instructor was actually a Parsons instructor. So she recommended me to, maybe I should consider apply if I really like. She can see that I'm very into it.
Right.
And I was at that time I was like, oh, why not? I'll just do it. Like for me, I have nothing to lose. So yeah, I applied and I got in, and I felt like the rest was history.
Wow.
Pretty much. And as soon as I went in, I realized, how much work is not work. Like, doing what you love is just so much different, like it was so hard. Like, my hand was like so bloody from like sewing, and then like I don't sleep, and it was very like vigorous, and I see a lot of like talented people in the industry, but I was only more and more excited, because I was like, wow, there's so much for me to learn, so much for me to see. Like the world is so big. Like I can do so much. Yeah, and I love the work. So yeah, and then eventually I graduated. I worked at DVF for a while, and this woman really inspired me, not just because of the design, but really the whole concept of empowering women. At that time, I don't think I realized it as much, but I do realize she is such a genius in a business sense, to create the brand and to how to connect her brand with her customer or with a community that can support that kind of feeling, like working woman wrap dress, and you want to look good, you want to be confident, feel confident inside out, because the wrap dress is in a jersey material, is so soft, it's so comfortable, but yet you look good. So at that time, like it kind of infused in me like that idea, that concept, and I get really excited about it. I was like, wow, like this is exactly what I want to do. I want to dress women for her everyday life, looking beautiful and feeling confident, and and wearing, you know, beautiful
And
clothes.
still professional.
Yeah,
something that looks
exactly.
professional,
So
but still look great.
this kind of you know, implant in me like this concept of what I want to do.
Right. Wow.
And later on, I also won an award for Arts of Fashion. And they sent me to Paris to work under a couturier and Valuiage. And at that atelier, I actually learned a lot more of how Parisian, you know, like French designer do things. Like they're more like artistic. They really care about the craftsmanship and kind of the feeling of things, not just you know, the technical side. Like I was very technical because like my background is technical. So my mind is like, you know, kind of also quite technical. Like I like pattern, I like to the accuracy and everything. Like, but French people, you know, it's about feeling, it's about mood. Like, but that also is a part of me because you know, as I told you before, I was involved in music when I was young. You know, like I love to sing, I love to express myself. Like it's kind of like a soul thing. So it's you know, it started to connect that back to me again. You know, like the, you know, connect the design, the soul to the technical, and then, you know, fuse it together. And how to make it as a business. You know, like I learned it from DVF, and so like everything kind of like all the string kind of like connect together.
And even in your mind, you're kind of like, oh, I found something that really leverages all your skills. And
sometimes you don't know. Like when you walk the path, you didn't know everything it was connected. And you know, but at the end, it all come together and became what is S.Nine. So yeah, like that's how I started, I guess.
That's an amazing journey.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever knew you liked design before you kind of took that, you know, dressmaking class when you were young? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I love, you know, I just love, you know, as like every girl, like I love shopping. I love looking at clothes and clothing in general as a category. Like I guess I wasn't as passionate about like handbags and, you know, like accessories and other things. Like I was like very particular about clothes and material, like little design details. So yeah, I always choose my own clothes like since I was young. And I love drawing. I love sketching. I was actually studying art for a while back in high school. So yeah, like the art and music stuff. You know, like I've always been creative in some way, but I never know that I would make fashion as like a career. I thought, I always in the back of my mind, like as also, you know, a lot of Asian parents tell you like this is just a hobby, you know, like this is
practical.
This is not something that you can pursue as, you know, like a career. So
in a business.
But I was always creative. Like I was always like, you know, kind of like a more sensitive person. You know, I want to express myself in some channel, and that's, I guess, that was one of the reasons why I felt like it was not enough when I was as a web designer, because although like I was also, you know, creating a website and whatnot, like I thought like that medium wasn't like, you know, as a medium, as a platform was not enough for me to express my creativity. So when I look back, I was like, yeah, this is, you know, I can't foresee myself doing, you know, this for a long time. So yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's good to have the skill, but not as a long-term career.
Yeah. But it helps me so much at the end, you know, like how, like, you know, retouching and doing all the, you know, like, you know, being in business. Being in business, you just have to know everything, like a little bit of everything. So like any experience in the past, you know, definitely have helped me, you know.
Definitely. Maybe we can expand on that. So when you decided to start your line, there must be so many things you have to put together, right? To start the business, to really find the production house. Maybe you can describe a bit of that process.
So that happened when I moved back, kind of like I went back to Hong Kong around 2009. And then I was like sort of just looking at opportunities, and I wasn't like, I haven't started my brand yet. And back then it was like, you know, I I couldn't find a job in New York because it was 2008, like the economy crashed and the industry wasn't doing so great. So I was thinking, like, is there any other thing I could do? And then I went to China. I went to specifically Zhongshan, and because I have family friends that's running like factory there, but not women's wear. It was like children's wear and other things. So I was just curious. I went, and then my family friend's friend is running a reputable garment factory. So I went and looked at it, and then I saw them, doing, all kinds of things like, embroidery, sewing, and doing like ready to wear, evening wear, like a lot of the craftsmanship I can relate. And so, yeah, like I just kind of asked, is it okay if I make a few samples there, and then kind of started my way there. And I think, like it's very lucky because a lot of people like that's the hardest part, is to find your first manufacturer partner for all the fashion designer, and because you have an MOQ usually with the factory, it's very hard to deal with that. Like, but for me, I guess it was very lucky that like I had that little connection to give me opportunity to try a few samples. And
that they're willing to do like a smaller size.
Yeah. And then I just like brought it back to New York, and then I started working with a showroom to represent me for sales and PR, and that's how I started.
Oh, wow. Oh, so actually you were still based in New York at the time.
Yeah. At that time, like, because I wasn't very familiar with the Asian market, as I was studying in US for like most of my high school, college, and work life. So like most of my teens and 20s, and so so I decided I want to bring it back to New York. But then like that was a point when I found out hey, actually I should focus on the Asian market. It was when I was going back and forth, and then while I was doing that, I was like, I have my samples here. Why don't I just kind of like do some pop-ups? At that time, actually, pop-up and trunk shows was not popular, or even like there wasn't like that term back in the days, like 10 years ago.
I guess it's more trunk show, right, at the time. Less pop-up, but they use the term trunk show.
But actually in New York, I have already heard about that. So I was like, hey, why don't I just start something like that in Hong Kong?
Nice, yeah.
So I started doing that, and back then, like there was like some few small boutiques in Soho in Hong Kong. So I talked to them and say like, can we do like a 2-3 days pop up, and then I started doing that, and then like to my surprise, like the response was tremendous. Like it was really, really amazing, and I felt like the actually local supporter, like I can develop on that. And then sometime like I would also do trunk shows in a hotel, like because like I just need to find a venue so people can try on the clothes, and because I need a space. Like back then I have no showroom, I have no retail location. I just need to bring the clothes to people to try it on, right? So actually that turns out to be really great result, and to my surprise, and I was like, oh, actually I could do that, in besides like in addition to creating my wholesale business in the US market with the showroom in New York, I could also do my own like direct retail with some groups of people, or work with like strategic retail partner locally to do like consignment or pop-up or trunk shows together to build up the brand, and also to have more revenue coming in.
That's great.
So yeah, like that's how kind of everything evolved. You kind of figure out along the way, like at first I kind of go by the book. As a designer, this is how you start. You go wholesale, you find like a showroom partner to represent you for sales and PR, and then you kind of like get merchants, get department store to take you in. And you know, as I go, like, I realize, you know, there are so many different paths. There's so many different ways. There's no one straight path to where you want to be. Or maybe you're not the brand that is suitable for department store. Hey, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you have your own market.
Exactly.
And I also did like trade shows in Paris. Like I would join like the, you know, those like large trade shows like with all the brands, you know, like each season I would join that, like in Paris, in Singapore. I've joined you know, in Malaysia. And I realized, and in Shanghai, and I realized, like, you know, and then I realized like my brand is not really suitable for like a mass market. Yeah. I guess that was like, to me, at that time, I felt like it was like a failure.
Right. Okay.
Because I thought like, you know, maybe I don't have a market,
Right.
or not enough people like my product.
Right. Because
And
your target
then-
was kind of more of a mass. So when you get the feedback
Like
that it's
when,
not really
yeah, when I was
appealing to
going
mass, yeah.
through that route, I was like, not necessarily rejected, but I get like very little result. I get very little result when I enter in a way of like, you know, going to the big trade shows events. When I going into like, you know, trying to get volume in a bigger.
What are the main feedbacks back then from?
It was just pretty much not enough interest. People say like, you know, it's there are too many sizings because my pieces has like basically, you know, 0 to 12, like 0 to 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like, you know, a lot of sizings, and then there are a lot of fitting, you know, to do, and so it's very understandable as a retailer. You don't want to do a lot of sizing because it's a risk.
To carry a lot of
Yeah. If you carry a lot of inventory, it's a risk, and you know, like with fitted clothing, you have to answer to a lot of needs because women has like so many different body proportion, shapes, and everything. To do very tailored clothing, it's actually not a very. It's hard to achieve like very mass commercial, you know, success basically. So I guess at that time I saw it as kind of like, oh, it's a failure.
Right.
Oh,
It's
not. It's a problem. And then I was like, you know, people have been telling me, oh, you know, why don't you just like, you know, do less or do different things and do, you know, like things that are not fitted, do things that are not, you know, as feminine, or, you know, the style that everybody can wear.
Right.
You know, like I get a lot of, you know,
Different
suggestions, like, you know, suggestions, people saying that. And then I kept thinking, you know, am I not, you know, not enough, and you know, is my design not good enough for people? And then, you know, like back in the early days, it felt like a failure. It felt like a defeat.
And when was this? Is it like 2 years in, or 3 years into the brand? Okay, just
No. I constantly get this. You know, even people new that has not, you know, seen my brand, and then, you know, like, people are gonna say things like, I think with everything, like everything you create, everything like you know, like you're not answering to everyone. You're not answering to all the needs, everyone's needs, and one thing you have to know is like you have to know who you're selling to, who's your market. And at that time, I was testing everything, and which is good. Like I don't regret those, you know, tries, because every time I learned something, I learned a lesson. I was like, okay, this is, you know, not suitable for me because this is not the market that I want to go in, and then, you know, it actually helped shape, you know, the brand better. Actually, I'm very thankful for those, you know, experiences, because that kind of shaped me as a designer and shaped the brand. As a, you know, like a concept, like what is S.Nine?
What do you actually
like,
want to cater to, of which
exactly,
segment you want to design for?
Exactly.
And how did you, because you said at that moment you were very unhappy about it, how did you realize that you don't have to cater for the mass and you can just carve out your own niche?
You know, like kind of negativity is something that is, you know, although, you know, looking back, you would think that, oh, you know, this is, you don't have to think about it. Or if it's like a third person point of view, it's very easy to say like, you know, don't worry about it, you know, like there are people that support you. But when you're in that situation, it always feels very bad. Like it feels very sad. And, you know, many times I feel like, you know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm not good enough as a designer or good enough as a business person. You know, like, but I felt like, you know, one good thing about me, or maybe one strong point about me is like, I feel like I'm pretty persistent as a person. Like I don't really give up that easily, especially for things that I really value. And I know that I really value myself as a designer. This is my identity, and you know, even though I have so much failure and to many points that I felt like this cannot continue in many different ways, like, you know, financially, you know, in a lot of like different situation and maybe negativity and my own criticism to myself, even people that are from my family and close friends because of them worrying about me.
Of course, definitely. And they're probably more open to telling you things too, right? Because they are close family and friends.
Like they don't want me to feel so upset all the time, or like work so hard all the time. It's like, you know, people always going to say different things. And one thing about me is like, I actually, you know, I feel defeat, I feel sad, I feel depressed, and then I get up. Like I get back up. It's kind of like I also like running. I'm not a marathon runner or anything, but like when I run, like I always feel like I want to stop at the back of my mind. Like some moment I want to stop, but I will continue.
Keep going.
Like I know if I just continue a little bit more, you know, it like the hardship will pass, and then, you know, like I can succeed when other people that might be
giving
in
up
the same starting point as me and faster than me, maybe they have given up because of different things. Like I've always felt like, you know, that's a term for it, you know.
Grit? Is that the
slow and steady wins the race, or
you
know, something like that. Like I
the
felt
turtle
like,
and the hare, the story.
Yeah, I felt like this is something like me. Like I never felt like I'm, you know, the super smart one or super talented one or the best or the top or whatever. Like, but I have the persistency, like, to go on, and I felt like, you know, I always find something to keep me going. You know, like I will kind of get back up and see, like, you know, I should be grateful. You know,
successful, right? Especially having a business, because there are so many things that gets in the way, and or so many opinions, and you keep hearing those voices or your own voice, right? Like, what do you think is the most challenging, like, over the years?
It's basically my own voice. It's the most challenging, is to really stop myself from all those inner thoughts. That's why now I practice meditation. This is actually when I read a lot of, like, you know, successful people or you know, like mentors and people who have went through a lot of hardship or start their business. Like I found that they also do meditation. And I think, like, actually the hardest thing is your own mentality, like to train that mental power to overcome like the obstacle. Anything else is, it's just there. Like, you know, how you handle it, how you see it, is like the most important. And I want to train myself in that.
And how to kind of positively deal with the situation, and
how
always
to
look
deal
for
with the situation. Because it's always going to be things, always going to be people, things, situation happening. So.
Tenure in the business, in the fashion business, definitely not an easy thing to do. And you mentioned different, you know, hurdles along the way. were there other kind of major hurdles? I know you said kind of mentally, like, yourself, getting in your own head is a problem, is something that you kind of manage. That's always the hardest. But any other type of challenges over the years that kind of either in terms of the space or location, or, did you, ever think of another location in Hong Kong or outside of Hong Kong, or anything that
I really love challenge, and now, like, how I see challenge is it's a good thing. Like, if I don't have any challenge, if I just sit still, like, I can't imagine me doing this for another, like, 3 months. Like, I want to be able to have challenge. I want to be able to learn. I want to see how far I can take S.Nine and, my atelier business. Like, I really welcome challenge. I want to, make sure that I still feel joy in what I'm doing. And, every day, like, I want to keep in mind that I should be really grateful for what I have. So yeah, like, I mean, the biggest hurdle, like, as I said, like, there's always many things that it's going to happen, and different projects, like, there's going to be difficulties or situation you're gonna think, like, this is so hard, like, it's almost impossible to overcome. But one other thing I also learned is to believe in others. Like, being in the business, and other thing is you sometimes feel very lonely. Because you pretty much is the only person that would work so hard and believe so much in, what you're doing, and you felt like nobody else can understand that. And yeah, it's lonely, and you felt like maybe you should just be doing everything on your own, because you also think that no one is going to do that for you, like,
or do as good a job.
Yeah. So. But then in the recent years, I felt like, also another thing is to achieve success, you cannot do it on your own. Like, it's not something that, me, myself, with all the hard work that I can do, like all the positivity or like how many hours I work at it, like, it's not going to be possible, like, think about doing a fashion show. There's so many elements, so many people involved. Like, people are helping you with production. People are helping you with the setup of the venue. Helping you get the words out. And my team getting the pieces ready. Like, from my own design iteration to a real garment on the model, and the model have to perform the show. They have to showcase the design the best they can, and the photographer, the videographer, like, how to capture the best moment. Like, believe in everybody's ability, and to inspire them to be a part of this success, to be a part of this journey. Communicate more on what you're doing with all these people that you're working with. I feel like, like, more and more I felt that this is very important, like, to
have that team.
Yeah, to have that team, to communicate more with people. Like, don't just, sit on your own, like, be alone, working alone, and not communicate with anyone. I felt like nobody can understand you. Like, I felt like I need to open up more.
Right. You have to tell someone your ideas before they can understand you.
Yeah. I need to open up. I need to communicate. I need to tell people.
Yeah. Wow,
so
I'm inspired.
Yeah. So that's also kind of like a new thing for me too. Wow. And I guess I'm more mature now as a person. Like, I felt like, yeah. And one thing is, like, I never think that I'm a good leader. Like, when I started my business, it's from my pure passion, right? So I thought, like, I'm just doing this thing on my own, and I have people, partners like that I want to talk with and see if they can, like, help me along the way to be my partner or whatever. But, like, when it comes to, you know, leading people,
Yep.
like I'm like, this is something that I'm still learning. This is my weak point. I would say if my strength is persistence, like my weak point is kind of to be like a good leader, and I guess it's also part of a thing that I need to learn. Yeah.
Like from hiring and kind of inspiring the person to uphold your beliefs and your brand. And,
I feel like this is still something that I need to learn and to kind of like do better.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you do two campaigns a year, two seasons.
Yeah, so like S.Nine is like spring, summer, and then fall, winter.
Yep.
And then Susanna Soo Atelier is going to be, you know, like the goal is one season a year.
Right.
Because it's an evening wear collection. So.
And how do you find the inspiration to do these new collections? Because it comes up pretty quickly, actually. Right? After you've completed one, you have to start thinking about the next one.
It's interesting because like it's a continuous thing. People think it's like you know, 2 seasons, and then you know once you finish one season and then you start another season and then the design begins, and then it's actually, you know, it's the point is quite blurry. Like I mean it's constantly happening, and sometimes it's maybe like, you know, in the summer I'm designing winter, in the winter I'm designing summer, or like, you know, in between I'm designing other things.
Right.
And it also comes, you know, as a creative person, as someone that's doing, you know, creative work. I felt like, you know, design doesn't come on like a timeline, you know, like you cannot ask me to do like, you know, this month I'm gonna have you push out like, you know,
20 designs now.
I guess that's maybe because I'm not working for a company.
Sure, yeah.
That I can say that, like if I'm working for a company, that's probably a different story.
Right.
But as my own brand, as you know, as a founder, like I kind of, you know, that is actually a hard thing to, like, you know, time management, kind of juggle, like, you know, how to put design, you know, at a time slot where it's needed.
Right, versus managing everything else.
Yeah, and then when you have that mode, you kind of have to block out the other thoughts, the other things that you put yourself in that mode. So, you know, that's why I actually, you know, like every week I would go to Zhongshan, and I will just be there for like, you know, 1 day or maybe 2 days. At that time, I would just be with my team, with the production team, with my pattern makers, sewers, embroider team, and we will be working only on the clothing, only on the pieces.
Right, the
Nothing
design,
else.
the
Yeah,
look,
the
and
design.
the look, and
I'm not answering to anything in Hong Kong, you know, like I'm not answering anything to branding, to marketing, to selling, to anything. Like I will be focusing myself to creating the product, creating the design with my team. So that's why, like, you know, now I created my own routine too. Like I put myself there so like I can have that mode. Yeah, it's actually very important to transition, like to have transition. Like you when you enter this space, you're in this mode, and when you leave that space, and you became another mode, like kind of, and that's another thing that I learned, like to give myself little bits of chunks of like rest mode, mode that I will just be doing nothing. You know, like read a book, or you know, like go swimming, or you know, like just do my own thing, and you know,
just
like,
to re-energize.
yeah, exactly. Watch a
clear
movie,
mind,
you know, like go have a walk, like, you know, even go shopping. Like, you know, I want to bring back the joy of you know, shopping, doing my own thing, like, you know, seeing things out there, like, you know, kind of like that. Like I want to make sure I put time in different, you know, like modes, so that like I can balance out the whole thing.
Work versus kind of your own time.
Yeah, and that's how I draw my inspiration. It actually all comes down to your question, actually. Like, how do I get my inspiration, like, because before I didn't know how to enter and leaving mode, so that's why like I felt like, you know, sometimes it's very stuck because like I have no time to do creative things. I felt like I have no time to be inspired and etc etc. But now that like I know how to kind of like separate in chunks, like, you know, when I'm in this mode I'm only doing this, and then I will put like full force and my joy and creativity in that mode, like then I'm able to do that. And then when I leave that space, and actually that also helped too when I do the rest mode and I do the shopping mode, and actually that also draws some like creativity and inspiration.
Because you see new things, or you kind of realize, you know, certain trends might help in the back of your mind.
And also obviously because I'm doing a lot of direct client service, and I'm dressing a lot of people directly myself. You know, people who I dress, obviously they are my muse. They are the inspiration, because like I know, you know, what they need, like, you know, what kind of functions they go to, and, you know, like their feedback directly. Oh, you know, Susanna, I love this material because it allows me to, you know, move, and also it's machine washable, or if I can put it in my suitcase and pull it out and it's not going
wrinkled.
to, you know, wrinkled. So I take all these feedbacks and all these experiences into my creative work as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. And well, what are your next steps, or any upcoming projects?
Yeah, so next steps. I really want to learn how to be a better leader, and I really want to you know continue to train myself, you know, mentally, and kind of bring the best, you know, version of myself to all the, you know, like to my work, and you know, infuse it to you know, like any, you know, any situation, you know, like work, life, you know, other things, personal and everything. Like I think, you know, because work is so much, it's pretty much part of me. It's my life. I can't really separate, you know, work and my life anymore. It's part of me, you know. So yeah, I think it's always, you know, the evolution of, you know, like learning more how to work best, how to you know, do best in you know, my work, and how to do best in the creative. Like just now I said, like I newly learned all these transition methods, and newly learned to trust, you know, like people, and kind of voice it out, and then not be kind of like a, you know, alone, working alone and everything. And I want to find joy in you know, things that I do, and put myself, you know, 100% in that moment. So I think that's always to be better.
To be better,
to be better
version,
That's
great.
To find joy.
Awesome. So any advice for our audience in terms of whether it's just starting a new business, or specifically for a fashion brand?
So besides having the passion, and you know, really find joy in, you know, things that you want to do, and want to make it as your, you know, your career, which, you know, I highly recommend it. This is the best thing, to be able to do what you love, but also kind of prepare yourself mentally, and that it's more like, you know, your mental kind of like, I feel like you need to prepare yourself mentally, for, you know, like what exactly you want to achieve, and always remind yourself of the joy and the gratefulness of, you know, like being able to do this. And then even, you know, if unfortunately this is not going to be successful, or you found that, you know, you can continue on, like make sure you make it as a lesson instead of, you know, make it as a failure.
Learn from it, and
learn
pivot.
Learn from it. Like I also learned to not see things not see setbacks and challenges as like a failure. I learned to see it as, an opportunity to grow, opportunity to do better, and maybe, that one way to achieve your dream might not be the best way, but there are so many other ways to achieve what you want to do.
Right.
And for me, like for example, I thought I wanted to be, internationally successful, globally successful in whatever period of time I thought that could be achievable, looking at some other people that have already done that, maybe in a span of 2 years, 1 year, or whatever, and you see yourself as like a failure. No, you can't see that as a failure. Everyone is different. You have to always find joy. You have to always learn who you are and why exactly you're doing this.
Right.
And really, I think this is kind of like, it seems simple, but it is like 10 years. I'm still learning that.
It's
like
very hard to
10
internalize because it's hard to not feel
10
bad
years,
when-
it's still a process.
Right.
It's still a process of embracing, everything, and trying to keep on doing better and better. And I wish the best of luck for people who really want to, do something that they love and really want to give something, and this is the best thing. It's the greatest joy in life. Like, we have a short life, why not? I should do the things that you love.
Awesome, great advice. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.